Hi, I'm Mr. Number, a math and science tutor. Today we are going to discuss on a first principle of differentiation. As we know, differentiation is a process of finding the derivative, gradient, or slope of a curve. Let's see how are we going to arrive to a so-called the first principle of differentiation. Thank you. Well, we start from the formula of finding a slope, that the slope is equal to change in y over change in x, which imply as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But because here in our diagram we are having a straight line, this is straight line, and we are having this curve. But the slope we want to find is the slope of this curve. Therefore, because a straight line and a curve seems to have the same length but differ if you stretch this curve. Therefore, if you stretch a curve, we'll have some increase in length. Let's say here was point A to point B, therefore here to from point A to point B. Therefore, we see a curve, if you stretch it to be as a straight line, will increase in some dimensions. And these dimensions increase horizontally, we call it change in x, small increase in x. Increase vertically, we call it change in y. Therefore, writing our formula that the slope is equal to change in y is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Because we are going to find the slope of a curve and not of that of the straight line, therefore y2 will be equal to y1 plus change in y, while x2 will be equal to x1 plus change in x.
Start.
From function that y is equal to f of x, therefore y1 will be equal to f of x1, y2 will be equal to f of x2. Therefore, substituting these values to the formula of slope there above, this was change in x, therefore change in y, change in x. Here we are going to have f of x2 minus f of x1. This will be equal to x2 minus x1. Therefore, from change in y, change in x is equal to f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. But this x2 is equal to x1 plus change in x. Therefore, change in y over change in x is equal to f of x1 plus change in x, then you minus f of x1 bracket over x2 minus x1. Again, f of x1 plus change in x minus f of x1. Here under you're going to have x1 plus change in x minus x1. And this x1 and x1 will cancel. We'll remain with f of x1 plus change in x minus f of x1 over change in x. This is change in y over change in x, the slope. Then this change in x must approach to 0 as the limit. The small change, the change in x must approach to 0. Finally, change in y over change in x is equal to f of x1 plus change in x. Then you subtract f of x1, then you divide by change in x, but under the limit of change in x is approaching to 0. But this formula generally we can write it as change in y, change in x under the limits of change in x approaching to 0 is equal to f of x plus change in x minus f of x divided by change in x. So this is what we call it as the first principle of differentiation. But we may write it also as dy dx and the limits of dx approaching to 0 is equal to f of x plus d of x minus f of x divided by d of x. This is the other way on which we are going to represent our first principle of differentiation. Thank you.